Alright guys, welcome back to Whiskey Motorcycles. By the title, you probably know what this video is going to be about this week. It's about how to winterize your motorcycles. I'm going to kind of go over in as much detail as I can in this video on exactly how to do it. And starting right now. Step one is don't winterize your motorcycle. Go ride. Don't quit riding. Why would you quit? I ride this all year round. Go do it. No, but for real, if you can't, I understand. The weather here is kind of back and forth sometimes. I do ride year round, and this is the bike I ride year round. However, with winterizing it, I still do in a few ways, and I'm going to show you. So a couple ways that I winterize my bike, so get it ready for winter riding, I should say, is now not all the time do I run my windshield on this bike and bags. Most of the time, if I run the bags or run the windshield, just kind of, to me, it's an evener look, and I like that. But no matter what, if I'm riding in the winter, the windshield is on. These hand guards, I put them on the bike. It goes with the style of bike. I leave them on year round, but that's another thing that it's something you can take on and off if you want to. So that's a big thing I leave on the bike. I bought these for the first time this year. I've been wanting to get some. I still need to do a little tweaking to them. These are my soft blowers that go over my crash bar. That protects from a lot of wind coming up near my feet and on my, my shins. That makes a huge difference, especially if you're riding for a while. Majority of my winter riding is just back and forth to work, or maybe to the store. I don't do a lot of like long rides necessarily. However, this winter I do want to try to get out and do a couple different rides for like an hour, 2 hours, nothing too much more than that. Because even with all the proper gear and setting your bike up, it can still be kind of cold depending on how cold it is. I've ridden in low 20s several times. The longest cold ride I've ever done was about 10 hours in a day, maybe a little more, because it was so cold and I was having to stop. I did one in March a few years ago when I lived in Illinois, rode down to Florida, and one morning when I started out, it was like 30 something and only warmed up to 40 something one day. And then on the way back from that trip, when I was leaving Georgia that morning, I got up and it was about 25 degrees. And the first 3 hours of that ride were pretty miserable. My feet were very, very cold, and I had to get some like the hot hands, but for the toes, the like feet warmers or whatever, and I stuck those in my toes and my boots, and those helped out a lot. But and I had heated gear on and stuff, and that's another thing I have hooked up on this bike. So I have this directly hooked up to the battery. I have another plug that can plug into a pigtail, and it also works for this gear. I run the hot wired gear. I'll probably kind of go over that in some other video sometime if I do like a cold riding video. But that's definitely a must if you're going to be winter riding. And really that's the biggest things that I do to this bike as far as like wind blockage and stuff like that. Now, since it's cold and I like park it inside my garage and I run the heater sometimes when I'm working in here on the chopper, I want to make sure that I'm checking these tires, like, I mean, at least weekly, but very minimum, maybe once a month, depending on how much you're actually getting to ride it and bringing it in and out of the garage and in the cold, because the cold will mess with the temperature of your tire. And so you want to really be careful about that. So, and I can go over that more, like I said, in a cold riding video that I'll probably do later this winter. But that's what you should do if you want to winterize your bike, to set it up to ride throughout the year. Also make sure you're still doing all the regular maintenance, checking your fluids, all that. You don't have to put any fuel stabilizer in it because you're still riding it consistently. If you're going to end up having to park it for a little while and you got a carbureted bike, maybe run the carburetor out of fuel so the float bowl is not sitting with old gas. But unless you're not riding it for more than a couple weeks, it's not too big a deal. Make sure you're still putting it on the battery tender, things like that. I Also try to wash it every once in a while in the winter too, because it still gets a lot of salt and road grime or whatever your area uses. You know, some places use sand, some places use salt, all that stuff. But either way, you don't want that sitting on your bike the whole time. So try to clean it up as much as you can, wipe some of that stuff off in between rides, things like that. Now, like I said, all jokes aside, if you can't ride all year round and you're here to watch this video to actually learn how to winterize your bike, we're gonna get to that right now. Okay, so the first step is you gotta clean the bike. You gotta try to get it as clean as you can. Get all the dirt, road grime, all that stuff off of, especially like the chrome and the paint. You don't want none of that on there to end up harming that as it sits over the winter. So it's already dark here. Training today, so I set the bike out a little while ago and then I rinsed it off too before I did this. So it's had a good soak. Now I'm gonna get ready to scrub it up and then we'll bring it in the garage and dry it off. Okay, so now that you got your bike all washed up or whatever, there's still a few things you need to do. So I'm not gonna like super polish on this bike because once I got back from my trip, I already did a wash and did some polish on it. However, if you know, when you get something really dirty, a car or a truck or a bike, sometimes it requires 2 washes. And especially some like the places around the wheels, I didn't get them quite good enough because I was gonna take them off and try to white layer these new tires before winter, but I just haven't got to it, and I'm okay with waiting until next year to do it now. So I kind of wanted to really get those wheels clean. That was the main thing. And then the bike had been sitting in the garage a little bit, getting some dust on it. So just want to get that little layer of dust. So washed it off, but I'm still gonna put some polish and stuff on it to help protect it from the winter. I'm going to show you a couple of things that I use. Number one being for like wrinkle black stuff, or it's good for about anything, but I buy it specifically just to get like the wrinkle black paint on these Harleys, and works on good like plastics and everything, stuff like that. is this SC1. There's also a brand called Pig Spit. It's the same thing. I just tried this one because I think it was a little bit cheaper and I got a dual pack off Amazon. I've also used this for when I entered the Sportster in that show earlier this year on those black plastic bags. So like I said, it works good on anything black for sure, but it's okay to get on your chrome and all that stuff too. I just use different things for that. I don't know if I'll wax it right now. I probably won't. So I'm gonna use this just quick detailer. Whatever quick detail you wanna use. I have this McGuire's. It's some pretty good stuff. I use it every once in a while with the bike. And then for the chrome, I really like to use Never Dull. I use that a lot. I normally like to kind of put it on the whole bike, on all the chrome pieces, let it sit. Sometimes I'll do it last thing that night when I'm in the garage. And then I'll come back the next day with the microfiber cloth or whatever and wipe all that off. It kind of dries and just wipes right off. You can also use any kind of chrome or metal polish. Winol is pretty good, stuff like that. Again, that's kind of your preference, but that's what you need to do after you get done washing it. Then, before or after you wash, whenever, you need to go fill the tank completely up with non-ethanol if possible. If not, you for sure want to run a fuel stabilizer. Non-ethanol is normally good for about 6 months or so before it goes bad. So that's all I'm going to do with this. I'm not going to worry about putting any stabilizer in it. Now you still can if you want to, because it doesn't hurt. I just don't feel like I need it because it won't be put away quite that long. So I'm not worried about it. And if you do put stabilizer in it, make sure you run the bike after you put it in the tank. That way it kind of gets into your injectors or whatever. If you have a carbureted bike, make sure you're running it out of fuel last thing before you park it. And then even maybe drain that float ball if possible. And you don't want to leave fuel sitting in the carb if you can drain it. So make sure you're doing that for carbureted bikes. Now, let's see, I'm gonna go over my notes, make sure I'm not missing anything. I've recently done an oil change on this, so it's not too big a deal, but make sure you're checking your fluids and you can change your oil, stuff like that, before you put it away. If you have coolant, make sure, or like a water-cooled bike and you got coolant in it, make sure your coolant's good to go, especially if you're gonna be storing it in a place that will get below freezing. My Softail, I cleaned out a spot in my shed in my backyard because I kind of just want some extra room in here this winter so I can work on a chopper and park a car in here if I want to for the really cold days and stuff like that. And I also just don't want the bike to get damaged. You know, when I'm working on the chopper, things can go flying, stuff like that. So I just figured it'd be safe in the shed, but it will get below freezing out there. This isn't a water-cooled bike, don't have to worry about that. But that brings up other subjects. You got to make sure you got a watertight place, or if there's a place that gets a lot of moisture. Not only do you want to check your oil and stuff like that, but you want to lube up some parts too and make sure nothing's gonna, you know, rust. I'm not gonna really have to worry about it in my shed, but one thing I've done before is you can take a rag, or I like to just take some like rim oil for like your guns. If you want to put it on like your chrome and things like that that would normally rust fast, just a thin layer, kind of spray it on there and help coat and protect it. You will have to wash your bike when you take it out of storage, but it's better and you get it protected all winter. And then your metal also kind of soaks that in and kind of helps protect it for longer. Like I said, I'm not gonna have to really do that because I am gonna be putting the chrome polish on it. There is another thing I like to do though, speaking of that, and I do this every so often anyways. My bolts up here, and especially the bolts along here, these chrome bolts, on the inside, they get, once you put a tool in them, you know, they just kind of like to rust over time. They get, you know, when you're using that tool, it kind of cracks that chrome a little bit in there. And if you're not careful, if you let the moisture sit in there, because they really like to sit in the indentions of the screws. So I like to just put one little drop of like a 30 weight, kind of a heavier oil. You can take like a Q-tip or a paintbrush and really kind of work it in there so it's not dripping all over the bike. But kind of helps protect things like that. Like I said, I do that somewhat every once in a while whenever I get to it, but I'm for sure going to do it before I put it away for winter. Then let me double check, make sure I'm not missing anything else. So once I get it out there, I'm going to take the battery out and I'm going to bring it inside. Make sure you put it somewhere in the house, well, if you can, in the house, and not directly on the concrete. So I put it in my room with my water heater and stuff like that, and I'll bring a small board in there and set it on that so the concrete doesn't draw out the power. It's best to leave it hooked up with a trickle charger. I don't have an outlet in there, so I don't do that. However, if you're not going to do that, every once in a while, check them, bring them out somewhere to plug them in to a tender and make sure they're back up to full charge so your batteries are good to go for the next season. Not just once, try to kind of check them over the winter, especially if they're going to be sitting for a while. And it's really best to, it's definitely best to make sure you take your batteries out if you're going to be leaving it in a cold place. Now, if I had power in the shed, I could run a tender and not take it out of the bike, but it's just best, I feel like, to just take it out, because you still don't want to freeze your battery, even if it's a tender on it. Like, if you can just put it in the house, you don't need it. It's easier on the battery. You want to also make sure you inflate your tires. The best thing to do is, check the PSI on, but if you can elevate your bike at all and get the tires off the ground, that's the best for it too. That way you don't end up developing any flat spots. I'm not going to do that because, like I said, it's also not going to sit too awful long, and I'll probably check on it every once in a while and maybe roll it around back and forth in just a couple spots. So I don't have to worry about that. But that's pretty much all for as far as taking care of the bike. Now, again, once you get it in there or wherever you're putting it, in the garage, however, since I'm putting it in the shed, I don't really have any problems with mice or anything because it's a pretty new shed. I put it up a couple of years ago. But you still want to cover up your exhaust holes, put some steel wool or something in there so that rodents and stuff like that can't get up in there, or if there's any other openings you're worried about, like your air cleaner and things like that, try to kind of block those off and make sure you're taking care of those areas. Also, cover the bike if possible. So I have a sheet, just like a cotton sheet, that I put down as like a base layer, just on top of like the paint and stuff like that. It only kind of goes over this section, and then I have an actual cover, like a plastic bike cover, that goes over the whole thing. The base layer really just helps with dust, which it shouldn't be too bad out in the shed, but like especially when I had it in the garage in here. There'd be times during the winter when I'd pull out a saw and I would saw in the garage, and obviously you get a bunch of sawdust everywhere. Well, even though the cover is on the bike, it still kind of creeps up underneath there. So if you have like a base layer underneath there, that's what that helps for. So just kind of keep that in mind. Your bike still may get dirty in spots. You're still probably going to have to maybe wash it off or rinse it off in the spring when you get it out. So don't be alarmed if you get it out and it's a little bit dirty, a little bit dusty from sitting. You just kind of want to, again, make sure it's clean when you put it up. That way it does help protect from stuff like that, and like that light coat of oil on things if it's in a humid spot, things like that. Another thing I wanted to mention, just in this video, been a bunch of videos popping up on my Facebook and stuff like that. I just bought one of these towels. There's a bunch of different brands out there. I think Black Line's a real famous one, but I just bought one off Amazon. It's a car drying towel. I'll go show you what brand this one is in a minute. But I dried this whole bike, other than the wheels. The wheels, I got an old towel just in case they were still road grime and stuff, trying to keep this one somewhat clean. But I can dry probably all my bikes my truck, my wife's car, everything with this one towel without having to dry it. It's pretty amazing. I don't know, that's just a bonus. I'm not really promoting it or anything like that, because like I said, I need to even show you the brand, but if you guys don't have one of these car towels, they work pretty good. I've used chamois for years and they're not bad, but you have to wring them out a lot and they kind of leave spots. Like this is pretty amazing. You can look up videos online of car drying towels and just watch. I've seen somebody completely soak one of these, put it on the hood of a car, and it still dries it streakless free. So like I said, I just tried this one and it actually does work pretty good. So if you guys are looking for something like that, pick one up. All right, so that's pretty much everything as far as storing your bike. Like I said, it's raining. I was gonna take you guys in this video to go to the gas station and fill it up, put the non-ethanol in it and stuff like that. But it's gonna be raining here for the next few days. I may get a break sometime in between, but I'm gonna make sure the roads are nice and dry now, because I obviously, like I said, just washed it, and I'm going to be polishing it up and stuff tonight, and maybe on in tomorrow, kind of let it dry a little bit in some more spots and things like that. But after that, you guys probably won't see this bike until sometime in the spring. I'm unlikely to bring it back out unless I just get a wild hair to work on it for some reason. But the whole idea is to put it back there out of the way so I can work on the chopper and get some things done here. I really don't need to do anything this minute. I still need to do the O-rings on the injectors, but I can tackle that in the spring pretty easy. Other than that, if you have any other questions, leave them down in the comment. I'll try to answer them the best of my abilities. Like I said, if you can, try to keep riding your bike all year like I do. It's hard in some places up here in Washington. I mean, it's pretty far north, and it's we definitely get snow, and there's times where I can't ride for a couple weeks or so, but I still ride throughout the year. I've been up here for 2 years now, and I've ridden in every month, multiple days in every month. So here, when it gets colder, for sure, it's already getting plenty cold, but when it gets colder here in the winter, like December, January, I'll probably try to bring out another video and kind of give you some tips for cold weather riding, and show you what I do fully, and we'll go for a little ride and kind of show you what it's like. But if you're one of the unlucky ones, or you just don't like riding in the cold, you don't want to have to go out of your way to do it, I completely understand that too. Like, you got to really want it to be able to ride in the winter and stuff like that. Hopefully this video helps you winterize your bike. I know most of it's just kind of talking, but every bike is different. So just kind of take what I said with a grain of salt. Like I said, the carburetor bikes, make sure you drain that float bowl as best you can, run it out of fuel, put the fuel stabilizer in. If you're gonna let it sit for a while, you know, just do all that stuff, and just try to kind of take care of it and service it the best you can before you put it away. And then that way it's ready to go for you when you get it out next season. So anyways, I hope you enjoyed this video, and I hope it helped. If you're new here, make sure you jump down, subscribe, and like our video. Leave us a comment if you did. And for the rest of you, see you next week. Thanks.